Hello. Today I'm going to talk about my game. My game is about fighting vampires. Within my game, I have two import statements, random and time. I also have 5 functions, and I did this to make my code as efficient as possible and to prevent any repetition from happening. So let's start with the game function. So within the game function, it really gives the user some just background information about the game and what it's all about. The game function also calls the practice and fight functions within it. So it's basically just the soul of the game. So at the beginning, the user is asked to input its name, and using the for I in range loop, I've done some string reconstruction and made the name backwards, which is now the battle name. And I've also taken the first letter away from the city and that becomes the battle city. So basically, at the beginning of the game, the user is given a random score from 0 to 100, and each time the user trains, the score increases by 50, and the user needs a minimum of 100 score to fight. So basically here, I ask the user if he wants to train or fight, and I've used a while loop to ensure that if the user inputs anything other than train and fight, or fight, the question is answered, is asked repeatedly until the user inputs a correct answer. So if the user inputs train, then it takes us to the practice function. And this practice function has 2 parts to it, which prepares the user for the fight, battle, and reflex functions, which are the different fight levels. So basically, the first part of this is that the program prints a let's run it. The program prints a letter on the screen, and the user needs to input that same letter within a certain amount of time. So let's see here. And the letters are also randomized, and I use the time.time function to calculate the amount of time it takes the user to input its letter. And the second part of this is also, it gives facts about vampires, which will be the user will be quizzed on in the fight function. So let's go back to the game function. So that was the training part. The score increases by 50 after that. Now, if the user inputs fight and the score is less than 100, the user is asked to train again, over and over again until it trains. Now, if the user inputs train and the score is greater than or equal to 100, then the fight function is called, and basically the fight function is, as I said before, just a quiz. So here I've stored the questions within variables, and then the user has to input their answer, and then I have also variables for correct and wrong. So that's the number of correct answers and the number of wrong answers. So at the end, if the user has grade more correct than wrong, then they can advance to the battle part. And if they have the same amount of correct as wrong, then they must input a number from 1 to 5, and if that equals the random.randint number, then they can advance to battle. And if the user has less correct than wrong, then the the function is cancelled and the game ends. So let's say the user got more correct than wrong, and it goes on to the battle part. So this second part is the battle, which is basically just a maze, and within this the user is asked to go different directions, so into different paths. And I used a random.randint numvamps. This is the number of vampires the user has to fight on each path. And then if the user wants to, is asked if they want to run or not. And if they want to run, then they need to input a number from 1 to 10. And if that equals the same as random.randint 1 to 10, then they survive. If not, they die. And then if they want to fight, then they can input punch, kick, or duck. And there is a chance I've set up a random. Here you can see random.randint for each, and this is the probability of them missing the vampire. And if they don't miss the vampire, then as you can see, these have the punch subtracts 10 from the vampire health. The kick subtracts 20 from the vampire health, and the duck adds 10 to your health, the user's health. So basically, if you stay alive throughout this path, then you can advance to the reflex, which is basically what was shown in the practice, where the user must input the same letter that is printed on the screen in a certain amount of time. And there's two parts to this. So basically, the first part is deflecting the hit. If the user inputs if the user inputs the letter in the right amount of time, it deflects the vampire's hit, and then it has its own chance to attack the vampire. Thank you for... And then also at the end of this, it takes you back to the game function, and then you can play again here.